Hello and welcome to the Sideline Live podcast. My name is Orla Keeling and I am the host of the podcast, where every week we bring you a brand new episode with guests ranging from Olympic champions to local heroes, coaches, support staff, and anybody involved in the world of sport. Each week we will dive into different topics, including current affairs in sport, identity, skill, mindset, coaching, and also shine a light on those flying under the radar. So tune in every week for brand new episodes, new stories, and new insights you've never heard before. Okay, delighted to be joined by, I usually say I'm delighted, today I'm very excited to be joined by Lindsay Peat. Lindsay, thanks for joining me.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for having me.
You're a hard woman to get on. It took a Cluck chicken and a helicopter ride to bribe you to come on.
Yeah, thanks for organising the helicopter. Yeah, I knew you'd can bring that up. Look, I told you that's buried. That needs to be buried in a shallow grave. Well, actually, a deep grave somewhere with unknown, because that is a memory I don't want. I don't want to speak about. But yeah, the club chicken was good. You definitely got me on side with that.
Um, I asked people online for questions, and one of the questions that came up is, what is Lindsay Peat up to these days?
Duck and diving and surviving, I suppose. But I took a I took the summer kind of off, I suppose. I just did a bit of gym or a random bike row ski or went to the gym. But I've actually been carrying an injury since the end of the regular season, which I I got through thanks to a lot of people. Andy McDonough being one, helped me out with physio. I met initially through Ireland, so he knows my history with neck and everything else. But I have a labrum tear in my left shoulder, so trying to rehab that now at the minute. So I'm going to take it easy getting back, and I want to be fully back. So plan is to return to rugby, hopefully, and pick up a bit of basketball in between then to keep fit. So just yeah, on the periphery, I suppose, making my next calculated move. So that's the plan for now. But yeah,
You're certainly not in the periphery. I see another at least two Irish teams in some sport ahead of you. Is that are you still, when you talk about competitive edge and kind of maybe not winding it down, but just maybe not at the levels you have been at, what's that like?
it's hard. It's hard to stay in sport when you're not in elite level. It's really hard. I personally find it really hard. And look, I know the commitment to have I enjoyed the last couple of seasons with Railway since I retired from international? Absolutely. I think I've been calmer. I've had transitions and many changes, big changes in my own personal life, and to help transition with that and have good people around me has been key. Um, and I've been able to enjoy rugby but still be competitive, and that's been really, really nice. And I think the club has I've gotten to immerse myself in the club, which wasn't really we weren't able to do when we were at Ireland because we were so amateur. We were in at weekends with camp and you were pulled from club, whereas now like you would still be essentially pulled with club, but the girls train from a Monday to Wednesday or Thursday and then they'd be back. You might not be around a rugby pitch, but like it was really lovely. I think it was the semi-final against Belvo. We had Tricky and we had Clean back. I think Dara was there and was it Nicole Fowley or maybe Ruth Campbell. Like the girls had just come from camp and it was lovely to have them on the sideline. And obviously I was so close to Clean for so long when she played here, and then same with Kira Cooney, and we started our Irish rugby journey together and we used to train summers. And I remember building up to that World Cup in 2017, myself and Cleena, especially because we were living in Dublin. Kira Cooney was away down the country, but we'd go to Irish Town Gym and in the Dublin City Council gym in Irish Town. And then we go to Railway to do our on feet running. And then you'd have enough time for just a bit of food and you would be in bed. And like it was so, if Tom Tierney asked us to do another up down, like you were doing up downs about from about up to about 3 weeks out from the World Cup. Like so the intensity of it, and you trained more than you actually played. I'd love to be in it now to see you train and play as much. Like that would be lovely to just have. I've spoken about this a lot recently, would be just to have a year of having none of the juggling, to be able to as such work or be contracted full year professional to see how much it could be enjoyed having a fully fully stocked coaching team, that nothing was left, no stone was left unturned to allow you to just be the athlete you should be. And I could see that with the girls now, which is amazing. And for a lot of teams, not all the teams in the World Cup, but definitely things were a lot better. So I'd still love to be there on that side of things and testing that out. I still am so competitive, but I have to be realistic and not be as stressed as I once was when I played internationally, because how myself and so many other players got through that is beyond me. But then when you come down the ranks outside of elite or like AIL or National League basketball level, or it's very hard because you've such a mix, and then you mightn't have standard of training or coaching, and that's not any reason. Like you're trying to be like to so many teams, um, and I'm so intense and so like I want to get something out of training. When I walk away from it, I'm like, yes, I feel good. I It's met my needs, and everyone's needs have to be met in every team. And I don't think anyone needs, who's coming from a very fun and just what would you say, recreational level of, for example, basketball. No one needs this absolute mad joke running around. Like, I remember being at a Masters tournament last year and we started with a full court press against a team who actually only had six players. And I had started that. And you're almost like, a full court press, are you for real? And I was like, oh, yeah, sorry, sorry. And like, you just move back to half court and you like snap into the room. You're like, yeah, these women are here just having a good time or having a weekend away, meeting up with people, and you're here like this absolute mad joke. And look, I'm not the only one there in the Masters, and I let myself down on a story I probably won't tell you now, in the semi-final this year, but like that competitive nature and that beast is still there. And yeah, I don't think as of now, unless there's a drop in energy or that enthusiasm, it wouldn't be safe for me or anyone else to be kind of down the ranks. So it's hard for me to make that decision as well. Do I try something new? But it's still going to be at a level where I feel it challenges me because it makes me feel alive. And not that I'm worth something, that's a bit deep, but yeah, I said that that fire is ignited, like the petrol's there, like I'm filling the tank and I'm motoring along through my week. So yeah, it's a hard one to understand even for myself, and it's me. I'm dealing with me.
Yeah. Where does that competitive drive come from? Like you said, the fuel in the tank. What's the fuel and what's in the tank?
I think I think it's been there for like sport as a realm that fed a beast that was where I felt I could thrive. So I could challenge people, and it was like a mental and physical duel. Um, and that really, yeah, like that really ignited like my passion, it kept my attention. It's not always easy to keep my attention. Like there's amazing books out there. I don't have the attention span to sit and read a book, even though I could find them. It's not that I can't read, or it's just that that my brain is on overdrive all the time. Like I could read a page or two and then it could veer off into something else. So on this, there's all this build up in energy, and it's like after it, my brain slows down and I can kind of breathe and I can enjoy and I'm present in life. It's been a lot easier as I get older on some level. But like I can't actually look back in my 20s. I'm like, Jesus Christ. I'd say it was like, one of them really bouncy balls, like you can leather, and if it was in a really small room, be like ping, bing, 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 bing. That was probably me, if I'm honest,
And do you enjoy that?
I
Being in that mindset when you're saying you're bouncing off the walls. Did you enjoy that?
In ways I did, but I wasn't enjoyable to be around, because if things didn't go my way, I had a temper, like an awful temper. Um, got really, really impatient, had no understanding. I do now, but that doesn't really make up for all the times I made people probably feel really shitty. Um, and there was times where I met my match or people who were superior than me, and that again ignited something to be better, you know. I know you asked me about one of my favorite quotes, and we'll go into it. for it's towards the end of the show, but like the quote will probably epitomize me. And you're either beating someone or you're defeated, and you have to get better. But you always want to be better. Do you know what I mean? You always look back and you say, "Oh, could I have done that better? Could I have scored more? Could I have done a better pass? Could I have defended her higher?" Um, so yeah, it's just like a mental and physical game of chess in different sports that I've played, and it's been fascinating.
When you're in that mindset of continuous improvement and striving and always wanting to improve, do you find it hard to take stock and kind of say and value your achievements in the middle of it?
You're stuck between a rock and a hard place with that one because I can't imagine doing an individual sport. I can, and it maybe on some level might be easier because you're only dealing with you, right? But there's no joy in that because you don't get to celebrate with really special people who you've gone on this journey with. So you buy into a team and a family, and you either win together or you lose together. And you might have hit the nail on the head with your own individual performance to fill into that, you know, to fill the minibus to get you to your final destination. But sometimes you miss the mark, and that happens for everyone. You know, how many teams have we see where collectively all 11, all 15, all 12 players have given their best. It's like a shooting star or a total eclipse. It comes around very, very rarely. And that's the risk you take with team sports. You know, the highs. I have definitely lost more than I've won, but it's the losses that are essential ingredients to get you to the wins. And anyone who knows that is like you can't take winning for granted. I'm sure there's that. Look at Kieran Whelan. I've said to him many times, how long did he give to a Dublin career and has no All Ireland to show for it, but is yet one of Dublin's best footballers over the years. You know, that's just the chance you take. Would you ask him, would he change it? I'm sure he'd cut your hand off. He'd cut one of the lads off who have six All Irelands or nine All Irelands or whatever, you know. So, um, but that is the chance you take. And as I said, I come away a richer person because of the people I've met. The medals just carry dust. I couldn't tell you where half of them are, and that's not to be flippant because probably a lot of them a lot of them are silver. They are somewhere. I keep so many keepsakes, but when you ask me about memories, the people come quicker than the trophies or the medals.
You mentioned it there about the feeling that you get when when you're defining success. How much does feeling and the emotion that you feel in sport come into that?
Um, it comes in a lot because the days I haven't felt this um overwhelming emotion of the want to win, I've played better. I've enjoyed it more. Like for years, DCU Mercy failed at the semi-final spot, time and time and time again, and all we wanted was to get to a final. And it was one of the matches, probably one of my greatest of all time to be involved in. I think I went into triple overtime with Glenmore. Like for the spectator and the sport, it was probably one of the greatest games to watch. Probably not so much to be involved in because we gave away a baseline three that knocked us out. But, you know, we talk about big rivalries, the Lakers, the Celtics, the Heat, the Celtics, you know, all these United, Liverpool, United City, like we could pick a load of them. And that was our arch nemesis in Glenmore. But um, what did you ask me there now? I'm about to go off on tangent now.
Just no, you're grand. No. It's how much when you're defining success in sport or performance, how much does feeling come into to the end
Sorry.
result of it?
Yeah, like when I've been part of a successful team, we haven't actually been as emotional. As in, we haven't let the emotion of the occasion get to us. And it's very hard to articulate that. Like I remember being like one of the times we're in that semi-final and people are laughing and relaxing in the warm-up and I'm like, no laughing, no sign and get, be serious. And I look back at that and I'm like, you're an absolute watch what? Because I just put the shits up the girls. They didn't enjoy it. I'm kicking off. I'm not enjoyable to be around. They're probably afraid to make a mistake. And you can't be afraid to make a mistake. You can't be afraid of failure. But yet I was afraid of failure because I was this intense person telling everyone to be serious and concentrate. Instead of enjoying the game, the basics and fundamental of any game doesn't change unless you allow the emotion of the occasion to change it. And that's the difference. So am I thinking because this is a final, this layup means more? Well, it is because you've just made it bigger than what it needs to be. You've scored 100 layups, not never thinking, well, what if I miss this? You don't really give a shit. You have to enforce me, which sounds so disrespectful. But when we eventually got to the final against Glamore, the first year we did it, I loved that because I didn't carry any weight. It was like nearly the weight of failing that semi-final stage was more of an impact than actually failing at the final because we'd finally reached the destination we wanted to get to, which was the pinnacle. The last two standing, and we absolutely blew them away because everyone was just relaxed. I was relaxed. I remember laughing and pulling up and scoring shots I probably had no right to, and making decisions that I made in just a normal league game because again, I wasn't thinking of what the outcome was. I was just making this decision and going for it. I was like void of consequence. When you're void of consequence as an individual and as a team, you really play better. And it's hard. Like I remember this was the comms last week. I'm saying to Jackie Hurley saying she's like, oh yeah, what do they need to do? And I'm like, I suppose I've been involved in a lot of emotional side of the dark days, and we finally got back to where I always wanted to be. Some of us have played together and wanted to be, and only McDonald Maloney has gotten to do that, which is amazing. But I'm so proud, and I don't have any emotion that I once had because it's done. You kind of heal from it. But yeah, I wanted them to just, if I could speak to them, just to say, just go and enjoy it. Don't worry whether you win, lose, or draw. You've gotten here on the biggest stage. You're one of 16 teams to compete in a world competition for this one trophy, and it's the biggest Cup for women to ever hit the planet. And you're involved. And no, look, let's be honest, Orla, no World Cup is truly reaches its peak unless the Irish are there in whatever capacity because the crowds, the passion, the tears, just the colour, the personality, like it all shines through on and off the pitch. So yeah, but trying to articulate that to people when it means so much, and I've been that person, that's hard.
Brilliant. That is probably one of the best insights I've gotten into the mentality of an elite athlete. That line you said about avoiding the consequences. So when it's so essential, and it's actually really interesting the dynamic of it because when you're falling short in semi-finals so much, the semi-final becomes the emotion. When you get to the final, then there's no emotion. Whereas if you make to the final your first time, there's no emotion. But then if like there is an emotion, then let's say if you're in it for the first time, like I think of Dublin in 2011 with
Mhm.
the lads. Paul Flynn came out and spoke about. He said he listened to this recording of FM 104 when they assumed they would win, and Paul was like, years later, he was like, I'd never ever listen to that. But the emotion of going into that game. So when it's so key to being your best and achieving your goal, how do you control the emotion or avoid it?
Suppose you have to redirect the emotion into the passion. So, for example, our team want line speed. So my energy is into completing the physical act. It's not messing with my mind as to, okay, is this the right thing? Am my timing right? You're just doing the things you've normally done. It's very hard to articulate because how to put it? I suppose you just have to instill in your team that it doesn't matter, nothing changes. Like if we win, lose, or draw, if we walk off that pitch saying we've given everything and Lady Luck wasn't on our side and a couple of things didn't go our way, then I'm happy enough with that. And I still stick by that. Like one of my pet peeves is to walk off a pitch and not everyone has given everything. Like we've been inhibited by the emotion of losing. We've been too scared. We've had a fear. And you just have to to breathe, and probably a lot more now. Even the AIL, the last two finals, it's I've just been present. I've just been present, and it's taken so long, and I've been so emotional speaking about having to play in the Aviva. I never got to do that in an Ireland jersey, but I've done it twice in a railway jersey, and just taking it in and playing without consequence. Because when your mind is clear and you've a 2-on-1, you make the right decision. Whereas if you're consumed by the emotion of failure and fear of failure, you're like, geez, I can't give this ball because I'll turn it over. But then you're going to ground and there's been a great chop tackle and your teammate thing has lined up because it's a 2-on-1 because that's the drill you do. And now you deviate and now they can't come back quick enough because this person's had a good tackle, bounced off the thing, got back on their feet and turned over the ball. Like, so there are the consequences because again, you're thinking, what if I lose the ball? But what if you pass the 2v1 that you've done? So it's about not making it bigger than what it is. And don't be afraid to fail and don't be afraid to make mistakes because if you do that, I feel, me personally anyway, my mind was clear and I was free. I was free to express myself and I was free to play because what fear does is put you in this dark room where you can't see. And I don't think anyone can do anything in life if you're blinded, without communication, without light, without making decisions based on what's in front of you. And I think when you're free of that, you take in everything, the noise, the crowd, and you relish in it and you have a smile on your face and it's much more enjoyable. But it takes age. It actually takes, you know what? It takes a lot of losing to know that it's actually not that big a deal. That's probably easier for me to say, to be really truthful. I lost so many, I gave up caring whether I lost or not. I just wanted to enjoy playing. And that's probably for someone so competitive, it took so long. And the only regret is I probably left some results and performances behind me because I was too consumed with losing and failing. And that's sad.
Mm, yeah. God, we're getting very deep very
Yeah,
early, very
very
early. I
early.
usually kind of wait a bit, but there's a couple of lines that came to mind there, an amazing insight as well. One of them, South Sydney Rabbitohs in the NRL have a mirror, and they have a line on it, or two lines on it. If you can breathe, you can think. If you can think, you can win. That came to mind in terms of the
Brilliant.
fear and being in a dark room. The other line was, I only read it recently. It was brilliant. It was around when you're under pressure, just aim to be average, because when you're under pressure you try to do these extraordinary things, and chances are, because you're under pressure, and I love that analogy of being in a dark room and not being able to see, you probably won't be able to pull off that exceptional thing. Whereas if you aim to be average and do the simple things, I remember a really big game, I was coaching a player and I just said to her, just go in and do something simple and just keep doing that, and she went in and did a great job. And it's just about hitting the average and realizing when you're in that room, if you can breathe, you can think. I actually don't even like the line, you can, if you can think, you can win. I just love, if you can breathe, you can think, because you
Yeah.
get so wrapped up in the emotion that you're like, oh geez, you can't think, whereas you actually can.
It's like chains. Like that's, if you were to put a physical, if you want people to feel it, it's like chains. Your arms are wrapped in, you can't move, and you've like a sock in your mouth, and so you can't do anything. You feel so inhibited. And I love both of them because you don't breathe. And I know so many people who haven't been able to breathe and enjoy it. And actually, we had a coach, Ben Armstrong, who's brilliant with Leinster. And what I loved was how relaxed he was, and there was no inhibitions with Ben. He wanted us to play, and he's hopefully I haven't made a shit of this, but he said, if you keep things simple, you'll be simply brilliant. And that's the thing about it. Like we go away, and I'm so guilty of this, Orla, is that I would have been such a sports fan of watching NBA. And we know NBA and college basketball, for example, differ. Like it's a product against a fundamental game that actually is real. But that's what it is, and you're looking at FA Cup goals or Champions League goals where you get this unimaginable screamer that scored, and you're thinking, I want to be this player who scores this magnificent goal, and what's my celebration going to be? Yeah, but you forget about the 40 touches he or she has just had. You're forgetting about the tackles they've just put in. They haven't deviated from the fundamentals. They have like done the basics exceptionally well. They've layered it on and they've taken opportunity, and by chance it's coming off. So you can't force a game. You have to do the simple things well, grow into a game. And when opportunity presents, because you can breathe and because you can think, you then take it. And sometimes you pull off these immense moments, but they're not forced. They're created by just keeping to the basics. And that's where I am so guilty of doing so many things because I was a dreamer of wanting to be this amazing athlete with these career defining moments, but they only come when you do all of the basics so many times that they become second nature. And I'm not guilty of doing the basics and practicing them like, for years you'd only see me with a basketball gone over to the course across from my mom's house, pick up scrimmage. Like I lived for sport and on some level not as much obviously because I have a lot more responsibility and I'm mature now. Um that's just it is. So like Mark Ingle would have brought in a lot of visualization. I remember lying on the floor and you're like just like shooting the ball and I'm perfecting my follow through and you know wasn't the best shooter, but I definitely had a high average with free throws because I was so physical and got to the basket a lot of the time and you want to get your just rewards. So I wasn't guilty of that, but what I was guilty was trying to force those moments when they weren't open to me.
Brilliant. I only spoke with Shane Walsh, sorry, there last week, and he gave me a really good insight into while you want to be. I love that line around you're too much of a dreamer, but his whole point was dreaming and visualizing is one of the essential pillars to being one of the best because he was like, when I go to the pitch, I was like, what do you practice out of interest? And he said, well, I'm just visualizing what I need to do in a game and I'm just replicating that. The same with your free throws, you're doing that. So while you're dreaming of the big moments, still the visualization of those free throws are the bedrock to what you're doing and the fundamentals. And you have a brilliant line there about fundamentals. And I think what separates the best from the rest, my favourite question, is being able to do the fundamentals at their top speed, repeated over and over. And what I'm robbing from you is without thinking of the consequences
Yeah.
and saying, what if I drop this? What if I don't execute X or Y?
Yeah. Just play.
Yeah. What give us an insight into any moment that is there any point in a game that you realized it and turned it around where you got caught up in the emotion or somebody said snap out of it?
Um, Trying to think, was there a turnaround? Mark Ingle was very good with me. Like I bring up this story all the time. Was probably a turning point for me. But Mark, if I was crabby or just being arsehole to referees, or I'd gone into this point of no return, he'd sub me, and then he'd know that I was pissed off, but he'd leave me simmering there, or he might say, "No, you've gone rogue there. You've gone rogue, and that's no." So I'd sit down, and then I'd be like, "I'll show him," and then I go back on, and I'd be like a terrier, but I know I'd have to do right things to stay on the court. So he knew my personality, which took a lot of trust because I'd say if I was in a lot of other clubs with a lot of other coaches, I would have been gone. Like, gone. Good luck. We have energy givers and energy zappers, and as much as I had energy and I wanted the best, like if you're in my jersey, I wanted the best and I wanted to smother and suffocate the other team, and I was willing to bring that energy to do that. Um, but it wasn't always channeled, and it was hard for me to channel that in the right way. Like sometimes even now, which sounds really selfish, but I've players like if I've had a bad call or something's happened, I'm in my own head in a few seconds after that moment, and some people try and talk to me straight after. Very few people I'll allow in to talk to me. That's not by anything. It's all me now, by the way. It's like I just need a minute because you're not going to get to me like I'm gone. You know what I mean? I'm gone somewhere and I'm not rational. So if you let me just give me a minute to breathe and come back, then you'll whatever you want to say to me, which I'm very open to then is much better received because as I said, it's hard. But we were able to do that. We were able to clock heads a little bit in that sense because I trusted him and he trusted me. And I knew that he had my best interest at heart because yeah, I wasn't always the best, but I did have a good heart. It just didn't I didn't act the right way all the time, and I found it hard to control. And yeah, when he went to Manchester Giants, we got a new coach. I sat on the bench most of the year, and it was the lowest year I've had with basketball. And I thought I was going to leave, and I didn't know how to get myself back in. I didn't know how to reach this coach, and he didn't know how to reach me. And I had no enthusiasm, and I just needed something from him to ignite a spark back in me, and I could have brought him anything he needed. Um, but he did a different style, and that was okay. It was probably a year I needed. It was kick up the arse. It was a reminder that what did I want? And it was a good reminder that I wanted to prove him wrong. But when Mark came home, we played Killarney in a final, and he hauled me off the bench and he wrote up a play for me to hit a three-pointer. And yeah, he wrote the play in the board. He said, "You're going to pass. So is going to back screen for you. You're going to fade off that. Um, and you're going to hit that three-pointer to win the game or put ahead." And that's exactly what I did. I didn't think twice about it. And it was the one moment that I was like, yeah, I can do this actually. And I won't let you sit me on the bench ever again, because I never missed a training, but I wasn't out. I'm not going to sit here and say I was white and white. Like I was petulant. I didn't want to speak to him. I was annoyed, but I didn't know how to communicate. I didn't know how to communicate. I didn't know how to have those difficult conversations. I do now, but that takes a lot of maturity. It takes a lot of self-awareness. When I say all these things, by the way, can I be very clear that I could do these really well one day and still be controlled by the beast another day. Not as consistently as I am now. Um, but I've just learned that it's important for me to be in a good headspace to be able to communicate, because it's important. Like, it can't be all about me. Like, I'm part of a team, and then there's a coach, and then there's a way of playing. And but I just knew from that day on that I wouldn't let my fitness, because I was extremely unfit. I was extremely heavy, carrying a lot of excess weight. Um, I wasn't up to the standard that I could be as an athlete, and I was still very skillful and very fast. Not very skillful, but I was athletic, but I wasn't fit that I could, my repeatability was very poor. So yeah, then we went up to National League, and I knew it was going to be a lot to if I wanted to play, and lost a lot of weight and changed my attitude and changed a lot of things. But it's, I suppose, when something you love is taken away, but you don't know how to get it back, but then you're reminded that this is where you're meant to be. Like, I wouldn't change it for the world. I change a lot of my behavior. So obviously I'd look back and I'd try and change things. But I wouldn't change the path I took. Um, because I think it all added into where I'm meant to be now.
Yeah. When you kind of, that's a brilliant answer as well. I'm finding it hard to where am I going to go into, because we can go down so many avenues. But you kind of said, oh well, I lost a lot of weight and I realized this is what I wanted to do, and I changed my attitude and I did all this. You're not really giving yourself credit. Like, that is a very hard thing to do. Like, when you're sitting down, like, do you remember realizing it and then going through, like, at the time, right, okay, how did you plan it, and even how did you get through the days where you're like, feck it, I couldn't be bothered, let's just go back and play local league?
No, obviously you haven't understood me in anything we spoke about. Like, it was the fact that in my head, in my crazy head, people thought I couldn't do this. And I needed to prove to them that I could. And I spoke so badly to myself. I'll never forget, on a treadmill over what would have been remember the UK chain of gyms that came, something fitness. There's one in Clare Hall here. It was a big, like, big corporate gym, like it was two floors. And I remember joining, I remember getting a nutritionist. Like, I had players who had joined who were with Niall Moyna in DCU. We were doing VO2 maxes. We were doing, like, we had access to people now we hadn't had it before. Now we were going to evolve into a team. But like, I did fitness tests and I was one of the lowest. So I had a choice to make. But I remember being on the treadmill going, um, basically along the lines, and excuse my language, you're welcome to edit this. you're a fat fuck. No one thinks you can do this. You can't finish it, you fat fuck. No one's gonna like you can't do it. That was the inner voice in my head keeping going because if you're on the treadmill for 30 minutes and you're coming to that 20-minute mark and you just want to give up, that's the way I spoke to myself because I was using what I felt other people believed about me to motivate myself. It's quite sad, isn't it? Like that, like you shouldn't speak to yourself that way, but that's the way I work. That's the way I work. That's the way I got through it. That like I started having a breakfast after 20 years. Like my diet now, Orla, is unbelievably different. I suppose I lied when I said I could change, like I wouldn't change things. I would change my knowledge and my enthusiasm. And there is a quote about, I'm sometimes more stubborn than smart. And I was more stubborn than smart at times when I was younger. And like diet, nutrition, recovery. And look, we're at a different realm as well, but I look at it now and I'm still playing because I know protein is big for me. I get hangry. I might have a busy lifestyle. Can I get fruit and Greek yogurt or am I good at, I love cooking. I love cooking. And I try as much as I can and I love good food now. Whereas I would have eaten shite, like I would have been eating a Chinese every Friday, I would have been out in the beer. Um, Sweets, chocolate, you name it, everything that went against what an athlete should be, I was doing. So how I was even function, I don't know. But that's the only part probably I'd change. But other than that, yeah. Um, I lost 3 stone over the summer and I lost 5 stone up until that Christmas. I think that was my first season as National League. And it's hard. It's so easy to put on weight. It's so hard to lose it, especially as you get older, you know?
Yeah. Grania Walsh gave me an amazing line. She said, if it's easy to do, it's easy not to do. So if
Yeah,
it's easy to pick up, it's easy to pick up Greek yogurt and apples in the shop, or it's easy not to, or it's
yeah,
easier not to actually, and it's easier to pick up a chocolate bar.
100%. And yeah, I try and do it now, or even like sweet tooth, like I love dried mango, and it kind of satisfies. Now, I'm going to sit here and say no, but like I try and make wiser choices. So I have a purple snack, and I might bring them to work, and it's like 100 calories, but you're not doing a dairy milk, which is 250. Because actually, if you do a watt bike, you're like sometimes you do a session, you're like, wow, that's just the that's just the dairy milk gone, let alone everything else. So it's fascinating how our fuel and our body works, and especially being female athletes as well, we've a lot more to contend with, and cycles and hormones, and yeah, it's tough.
Mm. I ask a lot of people around what's their motivation, and we were talking about. I was talking to Daniel Whiffen, and he basically said it was fear of failure. From chatting to you, I get the sense a lot of your motivation, like a lot of people talk about success or failure, but a lot of it was about what other people would say you could or couldn't do.
In ways, like I hated losing. So, like, if we're honest, like on some level, it's an insecurity. I felt powerful when I won. I felt powerful when I played well. Um, and it is about like some people might want to dress well and feel good, or go to the gym and feel good. It's about what keeps your fire burning for you as an individual. And outside of sport, I felt I was barky, like, but behind it all, probably quite soft and insecure. And that's the funny part, because what people saw on a pitch or a court was this really aggressive, really intense, batshit crazy player who could do something brilliant or something stupid. Um, and so yeah, in the early days, it was about. But probably, like, if I'm honest, like, without getting too deep, it's probably proving myself wrong. You're breaking down inhibitions, but you're using everyone else's, like, in a weird way, you're using everyone else's opinion of me, which is funny because as you get older, like, you realize that people actually don't think about you necessarily. You're like, I overplay so many things over the years in my head, and you're like, when you actually talk to people about it, they're like, what are you talking about? So I'm sure if I went to those people, maybe some of it was right, like I know I ruffled people up the wrong way. I know I was an easy target for people to ruffle me up the wrong way because emotionally they would use that against me, wanting to win. being fiery. They just like, I'll never forget. Niamh Dwyer did it up in Donegal, and I hit the roof, and I was gone out of that game altogether because I think she went like that, best of luck today, and tapped me, and it was so condescending. But she knew exactly what she was doing. She was playing mind games, and I, true to form, did exactly what she needed me to do. And I made it about me and Niamh rather than making it about my team. And I was a big part to losing that final that day. I played a big part in our team not performing that day because I let Niamh inside my noggin.
Mm. How much of sport, elite sport, is physical or mental?
Oh God, most of it. It's easy to train the physical, right? And it has so much impact. It's so hard to train the mental, which has an even bigger influence as the pressure comes on. Am I worried at times if I've gone to the gym and not missed it? It's easy not to miss a gym session. It's hard to be honest and say when you've failed and become stronger and go into what we would refer in railway as the pit and think you're lost and you have to keep plugging away. You just feel like and you're drowning and you're just about keeping oxygen into your body going, Jesus Christ, this is game over. But you finally come through and you weather the storm and you're swimming and you're like, right, grand, I've reached shore. I'm fine. I'm grand. But yeah, it's we don't give enough credit to the mental side because it's so hard to train, but it has such a huge impact on individual moments, on individual players, and then collectively as teams. And even as managers, they'll get it wrong. We're only human.
Exactly. When you're in the pit, like, and when you're in it, what, like, we've got, you'd nearly think you hated sport from listening to the two of us talk about all the hard stuff. What, when you're in the pit, like, what do you think about when you say, oh, I actually really enjoy this? Like, what comes to mind in the, when you're like, geez, why am I doing this? And you say, well, actually, I enjoy X or Y. What are those answers for you?
I enjoy when you come out of the pit and you couldn't master a chop tackle and then you chop someone down and your team gets a turnover and you're like, yes, that's it, finally. And you're like all those days where I'm in a muddy, shitty pitch and people dance like Claire Malloy danced down on my tackle and you made look like an absolute idiot. You finally get it right, your time and your chop, and it's textbook. And you're like, yes, all those dark days, all those extras. Um, like one of my highest scoring games in basketball, I think, was 27 points against Iceland. I don't think I even had that in a Mercy jersey. Do you know what I mean? There's days where you just like it all clicks and you just feel invincible. And it's those dark days where I didn't even make like I didn't even make an underage team because I was a delinquent. Like I was mad. And you were up against Denise Walsh, who was phenomenal, both intellectually and skill level wise as a basketballer. And you wonder and you're looking at her and you're like, fuck you, how is it so easy? And you're breaking your arse, but the more it's funny, isn't it? Because sometimes the more you train, actually, the shitter you get. And then all of a sudden it clicks and you're like, oh, finally. But there's times you put so much into it and you're just like, this is not working. I'm getting worse. And because again, I think the mental side is you're just putting so much pressure on yourself and you're rigid and you're mistiming and you're fatigued. Like, so many times where you're flogging a dead horse, you want to keep training and sometimes you just need a night off or a night away from it, like probably a bit better at just switching off and not really caring. Whereas I see some of the younger ones in railway and they're immersed and it's lovely because when I play with DCU Mercy, we used to go to the cinema together or we'd be hanging out on Friday and then we play together and train together and like you're nearly, conjoined twins with some people, you were hanging out. But we'd Americans as well and you were looking after them and but it was brilliant. That's what it is in your 20s, So it's just the evolution of life and how now sports plays that part and how your attitude changes towards it and what you want to get from it. So I'm still competitive. I just want to enjoy it a bit more.
Yeah. What, when you say those games where you're invincible, you're obviously talking about probably a flow state. How many games do you think you entered that invincibility during your career? And I also, can I just say, I love the way we've like in an answer you'll just be like, yeah, you'll go through across all the sports you played and you'll bring it back to one of them. I just love the way you just have
Oh
such a
Jesus,
broad
that's not
range of
me being a
experience. It's
nurse.
actually
I'm
gas.
just kind of like
No, not at all.
this
But
is
it
the way the
shows.
brain works. It's just like
No,
flashes of
it just,
memory.
and I didn't mean like that at all. It just shows, I think, what you've done and the levels you've been at across multiple sports. It kind of relates, but it teaches you different things as well. But like across all the sports, how many days were you just invincible?
Not too many. Not too many because it's about clicking, I suppose, right? So like I'm a jack of all trades, master of absolutely none, right? So I go from being basketball, that's fine, a bit different in how I started, but I was still 13 when my mom sent me over. So it wasn't like I played sport all my life and my parents were sporty. Like my mom was kind of keeping me in sport to not have me run the streets and getting in trouble. You know, I wasn't your typical, like I tell people, they ask me like, oh, you have two sisters. Yeah. Are you the youngest? I'm like, no, I'm the eldest. Like, and I get this all the time. And probably because I'm not your typical eldest child who's like sensible and mature and chilled, you know, that's not me at all. But yeah, so say when I went to GA with Dublin, like I was shit, like I was so shit, like, and I couldn't even solo. So I was grand with having the four steps because I was quick over that kind of couple of meters. I'd take my four steps, I'd bounce, and or I'd take, I'd take a little solo in space, and then I'd use my four steps to get round them, like in basketball. Then use my bounced four steps, so I was able to get away from people. Then you might hand pass, give and go, and all this shit. And I played soccer, so this was so frustrating that grand on a kick pass and stuff like that. Maybe wasn't too fond of points. Used to take goals, but if I'd go on a run, so it's probably at the peak of losing weight, and now I was starting to play midfield or half forward. So you were making all these runs, and like you'd hear people roaring, "Wait until our solo or solo," and they're roaring at me, and I'm like, "Fuckers!" And like, but I've got my solo. The truth is, my solo is so high. So then I started to think, right, well, if I was opposition, where's my weaknesses? So now I'm like, okay, well, I need to start kicking with my left foot because most female footballers were predominantly right-footed. I need to be able to dummy on my right, kick off my left. I need to really start practicing. And I used to go out on a pitch and I'd run full speed over and back, and I'd be just soloing, solo. Then I'd try to solo with my left foot. I wouldn't always get it right, but like, take years, probably the one of the better games I had. Well, I had some good games with Dublin, but some of them not like perfect skill wise. I just there was might have been space. Like my first game against Meath, I had 1-1, but again, I was in a state of the unknown. Like I just played what I saw. Like I was probably a nightmare though. I wasn't maybe sticking to pressing up on kickouts or like I hadn't had a more game understanding. Um, I don't know, probably the final in 2014 was one of them. Some of the Leinster finals I did well. There was a few of them, but very, like I was playing with Sinead Ahern and Lindsay Davy and Amy McGuinness and Carla Rowe, like Sinead Goldrick. Who else? Cleaner. Like I was playing with some of the country's best footballers, and like, how can you have a state of flow with them? You know, you're just waiting for adding to the moments that you get opportunity. Um, so I suppose for me, there's standout moments or games where I was like, okay, I did okay. I didn't make too many mistakes, or I felt relaxed and I did good things, you know. So they were probably sporadic in a Dublin jersey. I wish they would have been more. My most consistent season, I feel, was 2014, and it was because I finally was not finally. This is not to be taken the wrong way. I got nominated for an All-Star. That individual awards are brilliant. They're lovely. You feel really good. But the only reason I'm bringing that up is because I played basketball half of the year and didn't really come into the end of the league. I felt like I was a blow-in a lot of the time, which is understandable. Um, whereas the girls were GAA purists, whereas I was kind of this hybrid mixed breed. Um, and but they were lovely. Like they came to cup finals and stuff like that. But I suppose on an association level and the GAA community, it was just recognition that I'd finally done okay that year. You know what I mean? Like I was like, oh, so it wasn't the nomination, but it was more the acceptance. That nomination to me was an acceptance of being part of the community. And I obviously did a couple of things that maybe didn't go unnoticed that year on a fundamental level. And yeah, I'd probably one of my most consistent seasons in 2014. I was fit. I'd finally mastered, I think, the solo. I was playing full forward. Initially, when I went into full forward, they just kept calling me the bear in the square, and I'm like, yeah, okay, I'm tall. I was tall in the gap pitch, and I was strong, but I was getting crap balls in. I was like, stop launching balls in at me. They're really hard to catch. Like, still just put them out in front of me so I can run on in a smaller space. It's a bit like actually moving from being a point guard to a post player. Like, if you've ever played post, like, no one wants to be like right under the basket, having these balls flown in. Like, I played with a lot of really mobile post players who wanted to be away from the basket and they might reverse pivot to come up and face the defender, or they might want to back in. So you needed space, but you needed good ball into it, not to be like, oh, here, jump on that 50-50 ball there with another tall post on you. So once we mastered that and just had these little darting runs where this little dinky ball would come in or a hand pass, like it was class. And as I said, Noel Healy, like I had so many skillful players around me that made it easy. So probably wasn't even a standout year. It was more that they just made me look better than what I was.
Uh, I don't know about that. I won't. I won't bring up the final. I feel so bad whenever anyone mentions 2014. They always go to that final. But I do want to ask, what allowed you to be at your best across all four codes? And still, sorry, you're still going. Like, what allows you to be at your best, at your peak?
I don't know, just trying to pick out the best player and try to match up with them and keep challenging yourself. And you're never done. Like you're never the finished article. You have to evolve. And I've enjoyed playing eight the last two seasons because now I understand the skill set and the fundamentals, and I've had great help from John Cronin, who and Mark. He's very similar to Mark Ingle in their. Oh, they go into personalities or I search J's and I just keep getting labeled, oh, you're red. And I'm like, no, I can be other personalities because I play with a lot of blue. And blue personalities, according to them, they're very detailed. And sometimes I feel inhibited with detail or we do too much talk. And I'm like, overload, let's just play. Sometimes I just need to be like when you bring your dog to the park and you let them run around for a minute and then they come back and you can put them on the lead and then we walk whatever route you want. Like I kind of need that. Um, Even at 44, I still need that, just to have a few moments of just doing the zoomies and then I come back and I'm grand. But John has helped me understand the game a lot better. Now I also must recognize that when he corners you or tags you on huddle, which is our basic video system where everyone can see, that is not a nice place to be. So that is also a form of motivation to never make mistakes again. Um, but yeah, he's been so kind with his time as well to whether it's to evolve into analyzing games or coaching or asking questions. I'm quite visual, so it's nice to send him clips to ask him what happens here, what would you do here, why are we doing this? And it's nicer to have an understanding of especially the backfield, because obviously I'm a forward. And then when you're in a nature, more ball playing eight. So it's been nice to not just be this scrummaging player. You're getting to play a bit of ball, which is nice because coming from being a point guard to just being pigeonholed a little bit in rugby, because you start from the top down rather than the down up. Yeah, it's just nice to be able to play. And do you know what? Last year was a particularly really nice year with Railway. We got some really fabulous new athletes in. We'd already had some seriously fabulous people and athletes and players in our club. We're very unique in that. But they were a new lease of life. Their energy and their enthusiasm, and they still call you old and challenging, and you have to put some manners on them. But they also put manners on me, so that's nice too to be to be surrounded and don't be, I'm always learning. And if an 18, 19, 20 year old comes in and they do some good things, or you take up a notice with a cheat line or how they tackle or when they time their things, you have to be open to learning all the time. Like, because the day you stop learning is the day you lie in the coffin or you're being cremated. Like, because like if we're talking about sport, but like, yeah, like I love saving recipes. I love trying new things. Like we went paddleboarding. I know that's kind of silly or unique or like just different things that you're going, oh, I enjoyed that. That was new. And you just challenge yourself, and meeting new people is lovely as well and hearing their stories. So just broaden your horizons. Don't have a ceiling, just have a house with no roof and you just keep going. Just keep building up.
100%. Ageism in sport. We're quick to write people off, particularly intercounty players. When you hit 30, geez, you're done. Like, it's not, I think Paul Conroy's last year was a great example of just defying that rule and being player of the year at 35. What what's your experience of it?
Yeah, I think we are. People are very complimentary, but they are like what nearly why are you still playing at this age? And you're a long time retired or dead, or I don't want to make it morbid, like, but I mean, I sit here and I look back and I remember being 18 thinking getting to 21 was a really big deal. And like, your parents are celebrating 40th and you're like, jeez, they're so old. I can't even imagine being that old. And here I am in my 40s, but I don't physically feel 40. At times it was a long season. There was times my body was sore with some of the bigger matches. I remember playing All Belvedere in the final league game last year, and that's when I tore this. But like it was a physical game. We played definitely we were on playing D for the first 35 minutes out of 40 in that first half and played very little on the attack side, and it probably took me a week, but like you're also coming to the end of a season where I played it every match. I don't think I'd missed any unless I was away, and that was maybe two. So yeah, you're still playing at a high level. It's quick. You know, you're doing a lot. So look, I can mentally feel my age and put my own um barriers there if I want. But probably the more people tell me I'm old, the more I want to say fuck you. Um, because it's you don't want to be average. Like I said that in when I was retiring, like, for any young players come up, like fuck being average, like strive for greatness at all the time. And yeah, if there's a time now this season I come back and I'm getting injuries and I feel like I'm not giving to the most of the team and I'm really not giving anything and I'm not enjoying it, then I need to look at where I'm at and we go from there. But yeah, I'm still stubborn and not smart. So let's see how we're getting on. But yeah, it's not for anyone else. Like you walk your own path. You carve out your own destiny, whatever way you want to put it. Like it's for no one else, and stay in your own lane. Who said that? Just stay in your own lane. Like, you know what I mean? Like we want people to motivate like this country, even on an activity level, like just get out and be active and feel good. Like, and for me, playing at a top level, being surrounded by good people, challenging myself week in, week out, that's that's what makes me feel good. But with a smile on my face and having the crack with the people around me. And if it's ticking all those boxes and making me feel good and I'm enjoying it, then I'm going to stay with it.
Yeah. Are you afraid of stopping whenever that day does come?
No, I'll be honest, I'll always have to be active for my own uh mindset and mental health and to allow me to continue to breathe and think, because I find my brain can be on fire and I'm better when I'm active and I release all of that excess energy and then I can enjoy and be present in whatever I'm doing in life. And that's come with age and an understanding and a self-awareness that's taken a long time. So I'll always be active. I will have to be, and that's fine. Um, Playing in competitive sport, maybe. like it brings good camaraderie, but like do I still go out cycling to Hope now and go for a swim on my own? I love my own company now and I'll try and do that, Another day I buzzed off on my own to Carlingford, did one of the walks up there, had a lovely meeting with a man from Armagh who spent 6 months with New York, and we're sitting there and I've had my fish tacos and we're having a pint, and it was just brilliant because it's a lovely way. Sport is a lovely way, and activity is a lovely way of getting to meet people. And it's just, it keeps life interesting and keeps it feeling good and hearing people's stories. And like, I love having a good chat with someone I didn't know and I found out things about them. And I could have stayed all night with that lad. And there was another man he knew from our man. It was just brilliant. It was just fabulous to meet those people. And he said to me, if you're ever in Carlingford again, here's my email. Look me up and I'll bring you. I know all the walks. And it was just class. And that's the love of Ireland as well. Like, and that's what sports brings. It brings communities and people. It saves people. It reminds them how good they are. It creates history. Like sport does magical things, as does many things in life. But certainly on my journey, I've seen it do powerful, powerful things, and I never want that to change, whatever level it is. It can be on a very community-based level, or it can be bringing a nation together when we watch the girls against Spain this weekend, or if they're in the quarterfinal, or when Dublin lifted Brendan Martin a couple of weeks ago against Meath, you know what I mean? It was brilliant to see a blue. And the Croke Park was absolutely heaving. And the demographic has changed. So seeing even that evolution of sport it brings a great joy.
Mm. Speaking of evolution as well, like across your playing career, you did a really good interview with Off the Ball a couple of years ago. I think it was sponsored by Bank of Ireland, and you were talking a bit about imposter syndrome, and it was a very honest interview. And for someone like I've said it on this before, you're one of my major role models as well as Jason Sherlock, Kieran Donaghy, the first three really to have played Gaelic football and basketball at a high level at the same time. Like there was other people, but they were kind of at my time growing up as well. But like when you're talking about imposter syndrome, you entered so many different sports and just became one of the best in each, but you still had your imposter syndrome. Just speak about that and kind of the reality of going into a new sport, even rugby at 35, and then becoming an international and kind of feeling like, oh, what am I doing?
It's easier to thrive when people think you're going to fail. So that's been my motivation. But then when I got good attention, I was like, oh my God, they're going to find out I'm actually not that good. Even going for job interviews, and sometimes this can be, I've seen analogies where male and females, and I don't want to genderize this, like, but there's been examples saying a man are going to go, yeah, yeah, I can do this, that, and the other, and he mightn't be able to. Whereas sometimes as females, we tend to go, no, I could be better at that, and no, I don't think I'd be able to manage that team, or so. Yeah, the imposter syndrome still creeps up, you know. Even being a parent, some days I feel I nail it, and other days I'm like, oh God, I shouldn't be a parent. Like this poor fella is like unbelievable, and he deserves better, and you failed, and yeah, for sport, and even going from Ireland and not for say for basketball, having failed along and made really bad decisions going underage and not making it there, and then playing on a senior team with a group of players who played all the way up. I was like, oh my God, I am not worthy to be here. Like they are gonna find out that I am not up to the standard they are. And that was all along. Same with Gaelic when I first started. John O'Leary was the coach, and I remember playing a friendly against Armagh, I think it was, in horse and jockey, and the girls were lovely. Boys absolutely shit. Shit. Like couldn't win a ball. I won one good catch and I timed it really well that I got this high catch over someone and an Armagh coming backing into me. I jumped over and I got it, and then I landed on top for it and we got the free. That was it. That's all I did for the whole time. And it said a lot when I kind of rang him. I said like, just I'm not ready for this. And he didn't challenge it because he knew well, like I was absolutely muck, and I was playing with the likes of Karen Hopkins and Neve McFoy Senior and Solo and Angie McNally and Louise Kelly, like all the ones who had played, and there's many more, and obviously can't go through the whole squad, but like they'd been in finals in 2003 and 2004, and they've, it's Galway, Mayo, and they're there and thereabouts, and they needed someone adding to the team, not really coming in like making an absolute hames of it. So I'm sure they were all going, where are they after pulling this one from? So even that, I was like, I never want to do that again. And when Jerry McGill rang me, I was like, oh, here we go again. I don't know what he's been told. Like, and I said it to him on the phone. I was like, it's lies. Like whoever is telling you these lies, it's lies. Like I'm not. I don't know what you're expecting from me, but I can't bring it. And and that is nearly word for word what I would have said to him. And I told him there's no point in me coming training. Like, whatever you're expecting from me, you're not going to get. So they're lying. Whoever's speaking to you is lying. Um, and it took me all my might to stick with him at that stage in 2010, even or sorry, I came in 2009. It took all my might to stay with him. And I was trying to juggle Irish basketball. And I suppose in ways I was probably, I don't know how I got through that year, to be honest, because I'd only really started, I was probably a couple of years with Ireland and I was starting to grow. So in confidence and the imposter, the voice of the imposter roaring at me or the inner demons roaring at me going like that you're going to get found out was starting to, fade out. But then with Dublin, it was probably still pretty loud. So it was kind of balancing because I was a little bit more confident in the basketball and probably not under as much pressure at the time with football. And I'd obviously worked my way through, like when Maeve Coleman gave me the call up, I was like, oh, I didn't want to go. I wanted to run. Like with imposter syndrome, you want to run. It's easier to not show up than to show up and fail. And like so many people have probably done that. So I stuck with this and I kept saying to myself, what can you do? Like, what does Maeve want? Let's look at this differently. Maeve likes a fit team. Maeve likes someone who's like defensively, right? You've the likes of Suzanne Maguire, you've Michelle Fahey, you've Susan Moore, um, who else had we got at the time? Michelle Aspel, loads and loads of people. Kate Marr. So you need for like loads. I'm listing off people left, right, and centre. But anyway, you'd all these people, and you're like, right, well, they can shoot. Like Sanna's shoot. So Maeve likes her plays. She likes someone who listens to her, doesn't deviate, who's fit, very fit, and plays tough defense and will never go up. Right. Well, of all those things, you can definitely be fittest and you can give pressure. And on the 646, which like I told you at the time, I'm like not my fittest. And now we do a trial and I'm one of the first back on the 646. So I knew, right, well, if anything, I can offer her that. So just go to the trial and offer her that. Listen to people, ask questions. Don't be afraid to fail. Ask for advice. Ask Maeve what she wants. If you do something wrong in the cardio, ask what you could do better. So the mindset changed to not be impenetrable and have this front of, I'm telling you I can do this, so I'm going to break you down. No, 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 no. No, you are the epitome of imperfection, sweetheart. You just need to acknowledge that. You can bring something to the party, but you're by far the finished article. So how do you now improve? But how do you bring in the people you need to help you improve? And that was probably, and it's everything I've done. Like you start punditry, you start coaching, you start doing maybe some talks people ask you to do. You're like, oh my God, how is my story of value to these people? Like what gives me the right to advise them? Like I haven't done anything better than them. But you just have to be truthful and honest and remind that they asked you to tell your story, and that's all you're going to do. So it takes a lot of mental resilience and changing your mindset and being very open to feedback and failure. And then the imposter syndrome, albeit that it still crops back up and it's the voice that tells you not to show up because it's easier to stay safe. Um, But you'll quieten down the voice when you keep pushing through the boundaries and keep challenging yourself to be better. Because once you do it and you come out and you're shitting and your adrenaline's pumping, it's the same feeling you get in elite sport, like you've just achieved something. And it might go really badly. But I've learned that it's easier to be honest and say, oh, I really felt that went poor and I didn't give it my best shot. And would you like to give me some feedback so I can improve the next time? It's not easy, but at least you're human and people connect a lot easier with being human than someone who's defined and can't admit when they're wrong. Oh Jesus, that's definitely gone. As I said, I'd really like to have had the opportunity to, like the girls have now, I suppose. Like you look at Sinead Goldrick and she's come back, she's winning an All-Ireland with Dublin and she's going to play AFL. That's unbelievable. To be able to go down and play in a pro league and be one of the key players in that league, um, I would have loved that. And I would have probably loved AFL because it gave me a bit more physicality and probably would have been a bit more accustomed, like I would have been able to transfer my skills a little bit quicker, I would hope. Not saying
I honestly think that would have been your perfect sport, or close to. I think you would have fit in really well.
maybe because rugby, I struggled with the age I came at to maybe, if I was in my 20s and quite quick, where what would have been my position. Because of my age, I obviously went straight in a prop. Um, I'm not saying again that, I would have been, but like it would have been nice to see. AFL, I think, would have brought the more physicality. We would have had the mark. Um, Different score on your arm to shoulder. Yeah, like there's loads of things that I think were attributes that I could have brought. Like my first game for Parnell's, like I shouldered someone like I was playing in the men's league and absolutely chaos ensued. And like everyone's like, oh, it's just Lily, like, and I'm like, what's the hell, what's wrong here? And probably one of my feedbacks now, and like I probably won't be popular with this, but I'd love to see the physicality of the ladies' game here increase because no point in us doing S&C. It's all well and good for injury prevention, but you're now creating um, a more combative player. There's quicker, there's sharper reactions, like some of the tackles that went in. I don't know it's outside hand, but if it's on the ball, like don't be it's so stop start then, And the rugby in the women's sphere is so different to the men, so it's quicker, it's more skill defined because our athleticism is obviously not matching those of the men's. It's very similar with GAA, camogie, hurling, you name it. So our sports differ, and we need to maximize that in with the athletes that we have in that sport. So yeah, I think AFL might have been probably the true one, but we'll never know.
Yeah. I think, like, we talk about, we're all about championing women in sport. I don't think people will realise what Goldie's done till she's done it.
No, this is true. And it's also harder now because the evolution of female sports across the world has increased, and it's probably hard for people to, like, at times it's saturated a little bit. We had the lines and we had the women's warm-up games, and it's hard to miss things. I even miss things. It's hard to keep up with things. Um, but you try, and yeah, I don't think people really know what Sinead Goldrick, how successful she's been. And especially with AFL because it's not here, like there's just snippets of stuff. So it'd be lovely if it was streamed, but like different time zones and stuff like that. But obviously, as she knows, and I got to talk to her on a radio show the morning after the All Ireland. Like it was lovely, and I hope she knows how proud we are of her, because and how proud I've been to play with her amongst many other ridiculously skillful athletes. So yeah, she's she's amazing
Yeah. Aside from injury, why do some athletes not make it?
themselves. Themselves. Like I've played with really skillful players. I've seen ridiculously skillful players play for different clubs and their own mentality and giving up. Like you can't give up. It's not about the winning, it's the wanting to win. It's the wanting to be better. Um, and you have to fail. Fail and mistakes are so much part of becoming better in any part of your life. Like you have to be open to that. And it takes a long time. And, that's where I think, like, if you look at probably, for example, the Roy Keanes, like, he did again the basics extremely well, but he was so fit, he was so tenacious, he wanted everything. Like, no one was going to get the better of Roy Keane. And that's where he succeeded. And his standards, like, obviously, Saipan was huge, but, like, I absolutely see wasn't great for the team. but he is a man who obviously has standards of himself and expectations of the standard that should be in place for an Irish international soccer team going away to a World Cup. And if they're not meeting the standards, then it's not good enough for him. And that's a different mindset to someone who's willing to accept second best as treatment. So are you giving yourself second class treatment as well when you're thinking about how far you can go? Are you willing to stay in your comfort zone? A lot of people who don't make it stay in their comfort zone, and that's a nice place to be in the hot jacuzzi. But are you going to do the ice baths? No, because it's nice to stay in the warmer water where you're comfortable.
Yeah. Tim McCarthy gave me a great line around the majority of people who watch sport have never played at that level. So when you see people, the likes of Roy, for example, a great example, I've only watched a video on the Saipan thing recently. Do you find you very much relate and you can very much connect with these people and their mindset on a very different level to the likes of me and the general population where we're like, what do you mean Roy Keane's walking out in the Irish team? Why, love of our country and all that. But that's just an example. There's plenty of other things you can talk about. But you find you really connect and you find kind of a lot of common themes across athletes that just have to. Do you spot the mindset that you have and see it in them?
Yeah, you can do, and you connect, but it also sometimes can fire you on in the wrong way. Like it's a great question because Saipan is about the standard. So you have to create an environment for athletes where they thrive culturally, like even in your setup. Are you playing games that creates autonomy and pressure moments where they can practice in training? Are you pitching them against teams that, like, we used to play a lot against the men's basketball team because they were quicker, their skill set was quicker, but then we were training at a level that was hard and we'd match with any female team. So I'm a great believer in that. Because and we still do it even at Railway, and as much as the lads are at a different level as regards their own league, they're physically stronger and fitter and faster. Well, they're maybe not fitter, but they're faster. And some of them are fitter. But we will go toe to toe with them. And it's lovely then to be able to adjust with that. But like I'm very lucky with Railway, I'm very lucky with Mark, very lucky with Dublin that they were always striving outside to create an environment and to push the boundaries of what were the training sessions of the players we got in, of the teams we played. Like I remember Gregory McGonigal leading up to 2014 and we played in Nafina and Nafina was being coached by John Caffrey. Now John has obviously won an All Ireland with Dublin in the 80s. His father Talia Caffrey and he would have had the minor team under 16 or the minor team for Nafina that year.
They went on a run. On Dublin, he had the Dublin team that did a run. It's was it 14, 16 minor? They won the All Ireland every
Yeah,
age.
so what we did, like Greg got John to play us in these in-house games because again, we had done enough training. Like it was a long summer the way the old calendar worked. And like you'd have such a break between league and championship. But I remember those in-house games, like you'd be actually probably scored one of my best points, which was surprising to me as everyone else. But like because I didn't think because I had this defender coming down me and I had to just take a swing at it. Like there's the target, take a swing, just shoot like you've done a million times in training. But like even for that, for Greg to push, no other team at that stage, I'd say were doing that, getting club teams in against fellas. They were probably getting club teams in against other girls' teams, but these were as much as they were 16, but they were nearly 6 foot. They were speedy, they were gangly. Some of them pulled out tackles, and I was like, "Don't pull out! Don't you dare disrespect me by pulling out this tackle." Do you know what I mean? And like one or two of them, or probably more, got a shoulder off me. I wasn't afraid because we wanted to match the standard, if not surpass it, that they gave to us. And we certainly weren't going to lie down because we were female athletes and female footballers. We had an All Ireland to win. And I think we played them twice that year. So fair play to John getting it done. And I love that. Like Leah Caffrey's probably one of my favorite players to watch. Same thing with Siobhan McGrath in training. I used to make sure if we were playing games that Siobhan McGrath marked me or Goldie because they were the hardest defenders we had. And like it's important to, yeah, pitch yourself against people who are better than you because you have to get up to their standard rather than staying at this balance and equilibrium that kept you in a safe zone. And like the amount of times I clocked out with McGrath or Goldie, and I said I was an arse, but like we went toe to toe and I loved it. And you'd come off the pitch feeling you got something from training, or you got one over them, or they got one over on you, and you couldn't wait till the following Sunday till we had another in-house game and you do it again.
Does switching sports and playing each at an elite level, does it redefine or stretch? Like I heard the term stretch goals before, but I think for you it's like, does it just redefine and make you realise that really the potential of what a, I remember talking to Declan Darcy about this, like the human potential, really you can stretch it beyond a lot of things that you think you're capable of.
Yes. Well, like I don't know what nut would take up rugby at 35. And whatever about taking up rugby at 35, like playing international rugby at
For your
35,
first
like
game.
that's absolutely madness, you know. But yeah, like we say the human body is fascinating, but like our adaptability as humans in a lot of ways is fascinating. But unless you test yourself, you won't know. You don't know what your capability is. But it does come back into the mindset and what way you want to challenge yourself. And like, I'm not sitting here saying I'm great. Oh, I challenge myself all the time. No, I could have challenged myself a lot better. But like, I get asked these questions and I was like, I could have easily walked away because I was so scared, you know? And you just, you just have to make an absolute tit yourself and make mistakes and not have a clue. And for a long time, like I really only understand the game in the last 5 years more than the first five because I was fighting fires, just going through the motions, doing what I had to do to survive. Um, and there's that moments where you're doing things you have to survive, but you're also like I was learning on the go. I remember Tom Tierney asked me after my first full Six Nations, like you'd do a review. And he was like I know I asked you, I know I basically threw you in the deep end. And I was like, you could say that again. And he said, but you did okay. But he said one thing, you know, what, like, did you score that try against Italy? And I was like, yeah. And he goes, because you look like you hadn't got a clue what you'd done, like, so you need to celebrate. And I was like, I probably surprised myself that I actually picked up the ball and like it was just a pick and you kind of hit the line. Like I actually still didn't know what I was doing. But like I had to learn on the go. And the amount of time where you looked like an absolute arsehole or you'd egg on your face or you were so embarrassed because you had all these elite players who were so smart and had such a high rugby IQ, had such high experience in the game and had done it all, had won Grand Slams, had got to semi-finals of World Cup. And here's you like learning with these really experienced international players. And it took a long time. And again, no more than when I started with Maeve. If I'd taken anything into that, I had to try and ask people for help. And that's what I did. And it's the hardest thing to do, but how else was I going to learn without asking players and coaches for help?
Mm. There was another question in on the Instagram. It was, how did you actually manage it all? Like the reality of juggling, like even you were saying, I was slagging you about the helicopter, but like even from a training point of view, actually managing it all. I know you were saying you're coming in late to football, but geez, like that takes a lot to be able to do that.
Yeah, it was madness. Like really your sport sounds really sad, but sport was nearly like your relationship for a long time, do you know, because say with DC Mercy we were training Monday, Wednesday, Friday and we'd game at the weekend. Like I don't know how we got through that. Internationally, then you'd be gone at weekends. That summer 2009, I was playing international basketball. Like I was helicoptered from a game with Luxembourg in the arena to our quarter final against Kerry. Like there was no actual other physical way of doing this. So as embarrassing as it says, and the fact that I thought Jerry McGill was actually pulling the piss out of me was something. But um, I don't actually know how I did it. I was quite skinny that year because I was just not getting enough fuel in for the amount. Like basketball is such a quick game. I was playing number 12, so left half forward for Dublin, which is quite an up and down position. Like you're winning kickouts, you're trying to facilitate the half forward line or the midfield, or you're pressuring kickouts in the opposition half. So you're doing a lot of running. Um, so. I don't know. Like as I said, I'd very accommodating coaches who let me come. to certain sessions and not miss others. I'd very accommodating teammates who knew that I was working on something else and not coming in. Um, and yeah, the rugby was very tough because I'd only gotten married and a young son, and that was hard. That was very, very hard because it was at a period of time where it was meant to be that side of life, and then in comes this nearly mistress that is rugby, and that was hard. So yeah,
Gabby Logan gave me a brilliant line earlier in the year. She said, "Don't assume athletes want to be role models." I thought that was brilliant.
yeah.
What's your experience of being a role model for people?
I don't know if I am. Um, if I am, it's an absolute honor. Do you know what I mean? And I suppose the only thing, it's not the only thing. Um, it's a lovely responsibility and a lovely reminder that people are looking, and you want to do the best for yourself, your family, but also these people looking in that they mightn't have anyone in life, or they're searching for their people or their sport or their niche or whatever that may be. And yeah, I suppose I look at it now that if I was behaving and it was my son looking at me, that reminds me of who I want to be, who I want to be seen as. So the same as a role model before he arrived, you want to be the best version of yourself. And I don't see that as a pressure. I felt that as a lovely responsibility, as a reminder that I've come a long way and continue to be the best version of yourself because you don't know who you're impacting. Because when I was the shitty version of myself, I know it took me a long time to realize that I impacted people in the wrong way. And it wasn't until I lost the weight and they saw the work that I put in that I got this positive affirmation from people. And it was that moment that I felt like, oh, wow, I have real impact on people. Now, as I said, when I go into a zone or like that competitive beast, and that, like, I know that sounds a bit like dramatic, but that is because you're not thinking straight. That's not me as I sit here talking to you. There's this irrational person who could be impulsive and do anything. And when I come back and return to being Lindsay, you have like I would have had deep regrets in how I behaved. So yes, that still comes to the surface, and then you try and take a deep breath or walk away or try and bite your tongue. I don't always get it right. But you try and curb the impulsivity to remain the best version of yourself. Don't let the inner beast or the inner demons take over.
So really, in the peak of your powers, I get the sense that you weren't very conscious of being that role model in the cauldron that is elite sport.
Not in the early days. In the latter years, you forget that we look at role model being a role model as an external, but actually the people around you, your behaviors impact them most, the people you train with every day. So we label as role model, but like really that kind of intertwines with being leaders, doesn't it? Like, how you conduct yourself, how you come to training, how you fuel yourself, how you recover. Like they're all leadership qualities. They're all leadership moments where even if that's just yourself doing it, at least you're holding yourself accountable because you can only lead yourself initially. And then you would hope that when you replicate these that everyone else will roll in because you're guided to do something, but it takes a long time maybe to understand how invaluable those moments are, like fueling within 30 to 40 minutes of a game, or what type of fuel you're putting in, or getting your sleep, or doing that extra weight, or even in the gym, like trying to always outdo your PB. Do you know what I mean? You're always striving for something. So um, yeah, we can look at it that role model is always an external, but I don't feel it is. It's intertwined with leaders and being a role model within your own. Because you remember your bubble is so important with your people, like your coaches, your fellow, like that's who you spend most time with, really. Even when we're working, like they're the areas of our life where we spend most time. So they're the most moments where you impact people. So they're just as important as people who come to your games who are amazing and support you, like, and they're looking at you as well because they want to strive to something bigger, but that's down the line. That's the bigger picture. But what about the more present moments where your behavior impacts so many. So that's important too.
Amazing. Just on the bigger picture, how in 2009, Luxembourg was one of the last games of the senior women's team. How frustrating was it
Yeah.
for that to be pulled as a player in the peak of your powers?
Heartbreaking. It wasn't even frustration, it was heartbreaking. We wanted to raise money, we were getting offers of sponsors, and Basketball Ireland weren't having any of it. And I'm sure it was a bigger picture considering we're out of competition 10 years. I don't think it was as maybe um, black and white as it is now, but I feel I'm always someone I would hope that is trying to fix the problem rather than, we're coming up with solutions. It wasn't only me, we were all on the same level because we were on the cusp of going up to Division A basketball for the first time in Irish senior women's history. We'd beaten a Dutch team at home. I remember scoring a throw shot and it was out in between the 3 point and the halfway line, like the timer was gone out, and I just remember like throwing it up, and it probably a shot you practiced a million times and never went in. This one time it went in, the whole place erupted. I knew it was going to be a good day. And those moments don't come very often, and it was a like it was a generational team, with the quality we had, with the results we put in. I think one of my first international games in the arena was against Montenegro. Like they were fully professional. Like I loved it. I was absolutely sweating. I needed days, I'd say, to replenish the liquid I'd lost. But really sad time because basketball was huge in the country and like it was being played and there was, development officers around the schools and it's really big and it just died off then. It's really died off. Now I know we've come back now and
We're not fully
we've
back
some
though
amazing
to where we
players.
were.
Not fully back now, but like looking at some of the underage results and competition that's in is it it brings a light to a dark room. And yeah, it's very sad because when a program diminishes like that, and then ladies football came to the fore and we've seen a huge growth in that. Now we see women's rugby, like where does the basketball fit in? Then hockey with the Olympics and our sprinters and our swimmers and we've other sports thriving, and we lost a lot of people, I'd say, during that time that could have been world class basketballers. And yeah, we still have the small moments, I suppose, the likes of Adele Thornton who's still gone on scholarship and the Maguires, and they're it's lovely, but like very lucky that basketball was still so high in their community, but on a club level, and it's great to see them go off and between education and going into an elite level that can't be offered here right now is key, and we have to celebrate those moments because they'll only bring back good feedback to here and standards that we want to implement here. And but it's all about money and building again, and it's hard with such a small sport on the level of some, and we don't get a lot of exposure until really cup time, if we're honest, and that's hard.
What will your legacy be?
Oh God.
Or what do you want to be remembered for? Bring it back to what's in your control. What do you think?
Just lived, just gave it everything. It wasn't pigeonholed and nothing. I didn't let anything stand in my way, I would hope. Didn't let anything or anyone stand in my way except myself. But anyway, um, yeah, that I'm a changed person, that I grew. Yeah, nothing stood in my way to allow me to be the person I am. And I didn't do it alone. A lot of great people. And as I said, I wouldn't have got here without the help and courage and support of other people around me. And yes, I have to give myself credit that I did train and I did push myself. But there were moments where I needed help and I wasn't afraid to ask for that. But the legacy is I didn't want to be, I don't want to be like everyone else. And it's not that. It's like if you have that analogy, then you'll test the waters and push the boundaries. So yeah, I don't want to be like everyone else. I want to try and push and strive for pushing things to the as far as they can be pushed.
Brilliant. You've been around so many amazing players and elite performers. What separates the greats from the rest? What is it?
They're just relentless. They're just relentless. They won't give up, and they will do everything to make themselves better, to not only match the greatest, but to surpass them. Like if you look at Katie Taylor, the legacy she has left with bringing women's boxing as a sport to the Olympics, winning gold, then going pro, and then selling out a stadium in the trilogy with Serrano. And it's like the main event. Like it is the main event. When did we ever think we'd do that? And that's what I mean by pushing the boundaries and not accepting what should be where you should be in everyone else's eyes. Like only look forward through your eyes, and those visions and those dreams, strive to make them a reality. And that's what she did. And like that's unbelievable. And like we're only mentioning one, like there's could be here all night mentioning athletes who are trying to push the boundaries, and it's lovely to see that, especially in women's sport. Um, because it's, it was in its infancy and it was historically not a thing, and now it's a big thing.
I think her. I think I've mixed opinions on the whole thing about Crow Park, but I think in terms of I think the promoter should be paying for it. But anyway, it'll be bigger than sport when she gets to Crow Park. It'll be one of the best days I think in Irish history when you have Katie Taylor fighting in Crow Park. It'll be unbelievable.
Absolutely. And that's what she deserves, an Irish athlete. If it was me in her shoes, and it's not that she's not pushing for it, obviously. Like I wouldn't want to end my career. I would want to end my career on Irish soil with a win and cement my legacy for all of eternity, because that's what she will do. And yeah, she deserves nothing less.
Mm. What's the dream in sport, Lindsay? What is it?
To push new boundaries, make new results, to help be part of the evolution, bring new things, new standards. It's hard because it encompasses a lot of things for a lot of different people, but it's been a journey, and you're at a point and you want to, it's like, I suppose the best way to look at it is climbing up the side of a mountain. So you're always trying to reach in the summit. But along the way you're reaching milestones that haven't been reached before by anyone else. So you're matching them, and then you're like, good luck, I'm going to set a new one. And that's what you keep doing. So
Isn't it funny how when you were younger the dream was to have these magical moments and now it's actually about the process of getting up the mountain and the
yeah,
maturity.
well, you
Yeah.
can't reach the magical moments without the process. So I just kept skipping the process and dreaming about the magical moments.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. What's the biggest lesson you've learned from sport overall?
Always someone better than you. Keep working, work hard, but always work and pitch yourself against someone who's better, because that will unearth your weakness. And once you keep working on your weakness, I mean, it's easy to work on your strengths, but once you keep unearthing and working on the weaknesses, then you become a more rounded, invincible version of yourself.
Amazing. I'm going to have to bring this to a close. I'm very conscious of time as well. You've been very generous. Hopefully, we've unpacked a few things that you haven't spoken about before. I'm going to move on to the sideline seven. It's the same 7 questions at the end of every episode. Question one, you've alluded to it already. What's your favourite quote?
Now I'm going to read this, so don't make an arse of it. Is that okay?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. So this is from Pat Summit, unbelievable college coach with Texas, and obviously in her own legacy, in her own right, one of the top female coaches who took a program that was absolutely rock bottom. She says winning is fun, sure, but winning is not the point. Wanting to win is the point. Not giving up is the point. Never letting up is the point. Never being satisfied with what you've done is the point. And I think if that encompasses everything, anything that I've done, I would hope that it's that quote, because it is fun, but it's only fun for a moment. You have to keep winning and you have to keep striving. And yeah, if you're done and you're happy with what you've done, retire.
Yeah, that's a brilliant line. I actually haven't heard that before. Question two. This is one of my favourite questions, and I don't know how you're going to pick your answer, but
I
what's the
know. Is this
best?
the one with dinner?
This is no, this is the best sporting event you've been to.
Oh,
Like
this
that
was a
can
really
be
hard one.
as a player. Like I'm trying to even think as a player, what do you pick? Do you even how do you pick one of the in all four codes?
I think it has to be All Ireland final day when the Dubs are playing because I'll never forget when Stephen Cluxton put that free over against Kerry and I'm at the top, like last minute ticket. I'm at the top, I'm sitting beside some Donegal lad and I'm crying, I'm sobbing, I'm jumping up and down with him. I was with my partner at the time, but now I was obviously jumping with her as well. But yeah, just the place erupts and I've been there dancing on the podium as a player and I've been there as a spectator with the women's, and I think Croke Park is a special place to be, especially as a dub on All Ireland day, as a spectator, as a player, as a fan, and the Dubs are just absolutely deadly.
Love it.
I'll be slated for that now. But anyway, here we are.
Absolutely. Biggest setback or challenge so far in your career, and how did you react to it?
Um, just probably working so hard and losing finals, but it's not about me. As I said, there is a process and it's not only an individual, but it's a collective, and you have to make all those pieces align, which is very hard. Um, so getting back up after tough losses, dusting yourself off, and restoring the energy levels to go again, not only go again, but be better. Um, and striving for greatness is hard, puts you into dark places. It tests every ounce of your being mentally and physically, and they have been the mini setbacks. And then there's outside of life as well. You have to go with, and there's been personal setbacks that impact the sporting world, and that's part and parcel of life. It's no matter all of those setbacks, I've been surrounded by good people who've just allowed me to be me and reminded me that I'm all right. I'm not the best, but I'm okay as a person, whatever about a player. But it's you feel loved and valued, and that's important.
Amazing.
Feel part of something is important.
Absolutely. Question four, on the flip side, your biggest achievement on or off the pitch/court.
Has to be my son. Being a parent is hard. We say about role models, and you have this little person. He's not so little now anymore, and obviously I'm a co-parent. With there's two of us, and but he's probably been my greatest. He's a gorgeous man, and he's very opposite to me. He's chill, but he's great crack, and he's highly intelligent, and he has got my competitive streak. We'll give him that. It's good. Um, and we clock heads in that way, but Issa Nasewa said it himself after losses with Leinster. Um, when you come back, kids just want to play. Like life is simple with them. And he's been a gorgeous reminder. And he came 10 weeks early, and that was really tough time trying to juggle. And I remember when he did get released from the NICU, like he's like a little tot of a thing. And he's at my first Six Nations match against Wales. I'm on the bench, and the girls are holding him, and I have a fabulous photo of them finally getting to meet him after 10 weeks. And just changes your perspective on life,
Amazing.
you know.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's powerful. Looking back, what advice would you give your 18-year-old self?
Oh, stop being so crazy, bitch. Um, just chill. Just chill. Take a minute. Do your zoomies. Come back. Relax. Um, but I suppose it's hard to say that, isn't it? Because it was that energy and tenacity got me probably to where I am. I just would have liked to have been in a bit more control of it. Because the stubborn, as I said, outweighed the smarts. And it's not that I'm not smart. Um, it's just my brain was going 90 miles an hour, and I was a lot more consumed with winning the individual and collective battle, rather than the process of how to break the opponent down in a really systematic way, in ways and off the cuff. Like I'm not someone who likes necessarily systems. Like I like to have the autonomy to make decisions, but everyone else has to be on the same page. That's the hard bit. So I'm thinking someone's gone back door and this is going to be a class pass, but I hit the backdoor pass, but they actually come back out to the wing rather than going backdoor, you know. So it takes a long time. That's why scrimmages are important and just actually play, like just play, not just rules, but no systems, just play. Like, because then you get used to one another and your idiosyncrasies and how you play and what style you want to play. And that won't always work for players, you know. Some players want to play one style, some want to play the other. But anyway, so yeah, that's what I tell my 18-year-old self, have more smarts, less stubborn, or have a nice balance of both.
Very good. Question 6. You already said it's going to be your hardest question. Dream dinner guest and why?
I know. I went through like Michael D. Higgins, Mary Robinson, Katie Taylor, Ruby Tui, Pat Summitt, Michael Jordan, you name it. Like, but I'm gonna go with Kelly Harrington actually. I think she'd hit all the boxes. We'd have a good crack. Um, she's very family orientated. I've met her wife a few times, Mandy. They're both gorgeous, and she has her dogs. And what I love about Kelly is she's unapologetically herself, and that's no comment on anybody else. But I think if you go on, like I was thinking of Serena Williams as well, or Martina Navratilova, or I read, actually, I didn't read Andre Agassi's book. I listened to it on podcast. And he was fascinating. For someone you said about me hating sport, I was like, he fucking hated tennis. Holy Lord. But his competitive nature got him through. You know what I mean? And anyway, it was fascinating to listen. And I was thinking, right, would I have him? So, but yeah, Kelly's a dub, and we're both from working class, and I think, as I said, she'd be unapologetically herself. She's obviously done amazing things in the boxing world. I could have picked anybody, but I think, yeah, we'd have good laugh, good. Don't think the conversation would ever end, and we'd have good banter and
Yeah.
a good menu. So yeah, I'd
Well, I
go with
think
Kelly Harrington.
that could come to fruition. Maybe someday get the two of you on the podcast together. That'd be cool. Yeah.
Definitely, definitely. We met each other a couple of times. As I said, Mandy has been so kind. You know, if I wanted to try boxing, she runs classes and stuff, and they're just a deadly couple and
Yeah.
deadly people. And I wouldn't even mind third wheeling. Like if Mandy wanted to come, we
Yeah.
did all out, you know, be just
Have you
class. So yeah.
listened? Sorry.
As I said, there's
Yeah.
loads of
Yeah. The list is
athletes
endless. Yeah.
and people.
100%. Have you listened to Conor Nyland's book, The Racket?
Not yet, but I believe it's I actually did a panel for Cork Pride with Owen Cormac, and I'd never met Owen before, but he's a gorgeous fella. Lo and behold, how small Ireland is. His auntie is good friends from the tax office, and my mother goes down to meet her in Ballinasloe a lot of the time. So like Ireland is so small, and he's telling me this, and of course they got to my mother before I got to tell her the news, and she's like, Trish is telling me she met Owen, and I'm like, Jesus, give me a minute, woman, I'm telling you. But anyway, he was given great recommendations of books, and
Oh, yeah.
yeah, I'm sure that's possibly in one of the recommendations. But I've a list now from him, and I'll add that to the list if
Very
he
good.
didn't already
Final
mention
question before I let you go. If your life was a book, Lindsay, which someday it might be, what chapter would this be called?
it. The Wonder Years. So you probably are too young, which is shame on you. The Wonder Years was actually a program. It was an American program years ago. And it was this guy who was an adult narrating back on his childhood. And it was actually very funny. And I think that's the way I look at life now, is I'm looking back at all the things I did to get me here, and I'm kind of narrating to navigate me through the mature adult side of life. So that's
I
what I
love
went
that.
with, the Wonder Years. And they have been Wonder Years. So they've been amazing. And they have me here
Amazing.
today. So
Geez, that's a great answer. I've never heard that before. Lindsay, an absolute pleasure. We've been sitting for 2 hours. I owe you at least 2 Cluck chickens. Thank you very much for coming on. Really appreciate it.
deadly. Thank you. Thanks a million.